These are great days. Not the easiest times. Not supposed to be. What makes time easy anyway? Paul said that the afflictions that he went through in 2 Corinthians 4:17 were light. And he was going through a lot. I guess what makes things light or less burdensome is our relationship to Christ. I find it interesting to, hang out when I hang out with the grandchildren, the younger ones, and some of the older ones too. How much fun you can have because everything's so light. Now, when they get to be teenagers, they get morbidly dark. Typically, I don't know what that phase is, but they don't wake up out of that nightmare until later on in life. I think we pretty much all of us went through that. But in those younger days, it's just so much fun to explore, to think. I've never had so much fun finding bugs. Now, it irritates the ladies around me, some of the most significant ones in my life, but never had so much fun. Actually thinking about buying a python just to give it to my youngest or toddler grandson so that he can have it in his house. I know his mother and father would really appreciate that. See, these things are fun, enjoyable. Anyway, I want you to just take a moment. When the Word of God says, we kind of talked about this in one of our previous devotions, in 2 Timothy 2:25, that the servant of the Lord must not fight, but be gentle and apt to teach. I just want you to consider, I kind of look back in the book of Luke and chapter 22 and verse 47 and on, when Jesus was being betrayed by Judas and they had come with the forces from the temple, the temple guard, and they were going to take him. And you'll remember that Peter took a sword and he cut off the ear of Malchus the servant. And you also remember that Jesus stopped him and basically said, this is not the way that we're not going to deal with this situation with force. The devil loves to use force. We as people see this all around. Much of the philosophy of our day is a philosophy that people are swearing that others are using force against them. Even ideology is force, whatever you want to call it, some form of justice or privilege or any of the buzzwords that are out there today. Truth of the matter is, human beings use force. It's part of the equation for us. And the further we remove ourselves from God, the more forceful it becomes. Probably the most devastating cultures in the world are the ones that have no God. Atheistic cultures such as communism. Most destructive in all of the 20th century would have been those, or the Nazi regime that, again, had no place for God, no room for him. Anyway, so this thing about force, but the servant of the Lord is not supposed to fight. In other words, force is not the means by which we contend with the world around us. And I think this is kind of a beautiful aspect of our faith. The fact that, as we said last devotion, we can rest. It's a finished work for us. God has completed it. God knows them that are his. God understands the outcome of people's decisions. I'm not the judge of these things. They stand or fall in Romans 14:4-5 before him, not me. If I'm going to judge anything, it goes on to say in that chapter, judge this, that we don't judge people. That's what we should be judging. So we live our life in a sense of rest because all of these things have been handed over to God. I don't control the outcome of another person's life. I don't make the decisions for them. If I have a degree of responsibility, say for a child or younger person, I use that responsibility before God, not in an abusive way, because the love of Christ would not allow it if we truly love him. And if we respect his creation. I mean, you can imagine if we're just thinking of the parable of the prodigal, the father, I'm sure, was quite aware of his spiritual state. He could have just said, I'm not giving you a penny. But he understood that it wasn't he couldn't control another's decisions. Even withholding his goods would not have changed the attitude. Only the circumstance and that God would create, and the influence of the love that his father had shared, could change that situation. Well, there's a little bit of peace in this. Peace in knowing that God himself is the one that's working all these things out for good. He can do it. Peace in knowing that God himself, who showed his great love for this world, cares for each one, even those that have turned against him. And that he doesn't stop. He doesn't stop convicting. He just simply doesn't stop. He's always convicting the whole world, it says in John 16:8-11, of believing in him, that he was the only righteous man that ever lived perfectly and could stand before the Father completely holy, and that this world and all that it offers, that the God of this world has been judged. It has no place. I'm going to leave that thought with you. I guess we just simply, in the humility of accepting what Christ has done for us, there's a beauty in that. It does speak into the lives of others. Till next time, friends. God bless you.